The following program was made possible thanks to the generous support of our Kickstarter backers.
Well, first Holmes was born, and he got fat, bald, and tired.
Sup, Holmes?
Beware, your host, Jonathan Holmes.
You've changed, Sinistar. We're finally reaching a point, geez, 120-something episodes in, where you're getting even funnier. It's exciting. And Dina Abou Karam. Hi, how are you?
No, you had just said it right. It's Dina Abou Karam.
Karam.
You know what? Forget it. I'm good.
Typical failure. Typical Holmes failure. You just experienced your first of many. Whoa, and I don't know what's happening. How are you today?
I'm good. It's 6 a.m. Why am I awake?
What? And you? Are you in London town?
No, I'm in Osaka.
Oh, Osaka, Japan.
Mm-hmm.
How is it in Osaka?
I'm a kitty mug, you know.
Sure. How is it in Japan right now?
I don't know. It's really cold.
Yeah, it's cold here too. I'm in Massachusetts, 14 hours away from you. And for people who don't know, you are the community manager of Comcept, the new company formed by Keiji Inafune. Did I pronounce his name right?
You tried. It's Keiji Inafune.
Keiji. Yes, I've been saying his name ever since I was 14, and I always say it wrong. Maybe he's 14. Thank you. That's kind of you to say. I'm sure he wouldn't agree, but as long as you agree, then I'm happy. And you got the job at Comcept how long ago?
I got it at the beginning of last year, December, so it's almost a year now.
Oh, wow. Cool. And how did that happen? How did you end up working at Comcept?
Well, I already lived in the city, and, well, how do you say? The indie crowd here, especially the foreigner crowd, is very tightly knit, and we have kind of a weekly meetup, which is called Kantaru, and the founder of that is Ben Judd. You know Ben Judd, producer for Bionic Commando.
Yes, formerly of Capcom. I think was he also the voice of Phoenix Wright in one of the Ace Attorney games?
Yes, he is. And yours truly being the charming person that she is, first time I met him, the first thing I did was like, say objection! He's like, no, I really hate this.
That's, yeah, for us, that would be like walking up to the actor who played Steve Urkel and saying, did I do that? He'd be very sad. I don't know.
Pretty much. So it was like a major faux pas, and I was like, all right, well, this person hates me. Great. Next. But yeah. So through that circle, I just came to know that there was an opening at Comcept, and they needed a community manager, and I had done some moderating in the past, so I was like, you know what? I graduated. I got my master's degree a while ago. I'm ready. I didn't really, like, I had never had any experience actually community managing per se, but I wanted to work in video games, and I had heard of nothing else at the time, so I was like, you know what, I'm going to go for it, and I submitted my CV, and I got a call back, and I was just like, okay, well, this was going to happen now. And I remember spending maybe 3 hours getting ready for my first interview, thinking that I was going to meet, I thought it was really silly in retrospect, like, I was going to meet Keiji Inafune. And of course I meet the people from HR. They just show up, like, completely made up, my hair done, and I was just like, I spent like an hour picking the right leather jacket, which is really sad in retrospect. Why am I telling you this? And I just showed
up. It's not sad at all. I mean, I think all of us who grew up loving Keiji.
It's okay. Most people, like, we get a lot of emails of people just calling him Kenji, and I'm like, how? He's like, Kenji, I'm your biggest fan. I'm like,
Kenji. That's it sounds like isn't that the guy from Evangelion? No, that's Shinji. My bad. Anyway, I grew up with his games just like you. So if I were to meet him, and I've like seen him from a distance, Tokyo Game Show a few years ago, I was like shaking in my boots just seeing him 30 feet away. So let alone if I was going to job interview with him, I'd be wearing 2 leather jackets and like a leather hat.
It makes you feel like a real badass, let me tell you what.
Absolutely. So there you were, going to meet with HR, and then you got through that interview, and then off to an interview with the actual developers at that point?
The second interview was somehow with Inafune-san himself. So that time I knew it was him. So I just did the whole thing over, and I show up there, and I just sit down, and they're like, okay, Inafune-san will be with you in a second. I'm like, okay, I'm good. I'm okay. I'm sweating buckets, but that's what the jacket is for. You can't see anything. So I'm just sitting there, and then it was really silly. So I bent down to like adjust my heels, because I had to wear heels. I don't know. And then I look up, and he's in the room, and I literally go, and he goes, and I'm like, oh no, this is the worst first impression ever. Why? And then he just starts talking to me, which just starts washing over. I mean, you're sitting there with someone who is an idol to so many people. Personally, I didn't grow up with Mega Man. So that was something that I came in way after, and I'm sorry to say was one of my ex-boyfriends who was like, you've never played Mega Man? We have to break up if you don't play Mega Man. I was like, all right, bye. And he was like, okay, no, I'll help you through it. And I was like, But I played X at the time, and I just loved it. Yeah. And I was convinced Zero was a girl. And of course I had to like have a verbal diarrhea and tell all of this to Inafune-san. So I'm sitting there and I'm telling him about, and then I met Zero and I thought it was a girl because, you know, of like the green boob things. And he's like,
He's heard that before. Yeah, I thought the exact same thing. It seems like it must have been, he couldn't have been totally unaware that he drew nipples on Zero, was he?
He was.
That makes him even more lovable in the end, I suppose. Yeah.
He's great. He's really nice and a really supportive and sweet boss. Honestly, I'm so glad for him and the people at Comcept because they've been so understanding through all of this. And it's really hard to explain sometimes what's happening in like the North American internet sphere. Like I have to come like the past few months, it's just trying to give him like the cliff notes of why we were getting some types of emails, just being like, yeah, about that, and having to go like through like, well, there's a lot of rage sometimes on the internet.
Well, he is, I don't know his exact age, but I have always imagined he's a good 20 years older than me. I think he was in his 20s when I was growing up. Maybe he's only 10. I'm 37. But regardless, he's in a different
he's older than you.
He's old, yeah. I think so. So the whole concept of there's this internet where a new kind of culture has formed over the past, I would say, since high-speed internet, past 4 or 5 years or so, that has a completely different etiquette, completely different standard for like what's abrasive and what's just funny, what's a way to try to signal boost your message, things people will say just to get a reaction. It's like a whole different. If I were him, I would be completely befuddled. So that's part of your job, is like translating the internet to Comcept, I would imagine. What are some other aspects of your job?
I call it's a lot of data mining. So I call a lot of we have the forums, the My Number 9 forums. I go through that and I sort through and just make a repertoire of everyone's ideas. And then just basically how many times that came up, how many people agreed, how many likes, you know, how many people discussed this. So I just make basically data mines of what the fans want. I translate them, and then I pass them over. And then the development team just goes through that and sees what can be incorporated, what is way too out there, what like fits in the timeline. It's really hard for and then I have to take that feedback back and then just make it into these updates that we do 3 times a month.
Oh,
which doesn't seem like much, but it's a hectic pace.
Well, it's interesting in a lot of different ways. It sounds like it's as much work as you choose to make it. Like you wouldn't want to announce this, but you could probably just like do a terrible job and people might not know because you're the one who's really seeing in the trenches everything that's going on.
Oh God, no. Yeah. There's other English speakers at Comcept. I could not get away with just sitting back and not doing anything. There's like, I mean, I hope he doesn't kill me for mentioning him, but the producer is in the forums and like the artists are in the forums, and oftentimes I'll be like pulled aside by someone like the lead character designer, Kimo, who is an amazing person, and be like, what are they saying? I can see my name. Or like, what are they talking about? I can see like they're talking about my character. And I'm like, yeah, so they're saying this and that. They really like this. It looks like Zero has boobs. And he's like, what? I'm like, no, forget about that.
So that's constant. In that case, it sounds like the pressure would be constant. You know you're being watched by both the community, by your bosses, and you have huge respect for the community, you have huge respect for your bosses, you want to live up to all of their expectations. Whoa, that sounds... and on top of that, I just realized this is the project that came off of the Mega Man Legends 3 project, which was supposed to be about integrating the community into game development, and Inafune-san moved on from that and is now trying to carry on the spirit of that project, at least in terms of the collaboration with the community, into this. That is a ton of pressure. You know, you've got Mega Man fans, you know, you have all new Mighty Number 9 fans, you've got the internet at large, and you have your bosses constantly looking at you to make this integration work. How does that feel?
You know, I hadn't thought about that until you put it like this.
I hope I haven't hurted you, but you're doing an amazing job. I mean, the project continues to gain traction. People are still talking about it on a pretty regular basis. It's always front page news on all the blogs, and I think that has to do with the fact that the way you've handled it, everyone who knows Mighty Number 9 knows it's an important game and remains an important game as it goes on, and community management's definitely a part of that.
I mean, I hope so. Really, how do you say? This is going to sound a little weird, but I have a personal vested interest in Mighty Number 9's success, simply besides being an employee, because I was originally a backer of this. I remember staying up, because as I said, we were all in the circle, and then there was a buzz going of you have to watch Inafune-san's panel at the time. So we all stayed up. It was something like this, 6 a.m. I remember it was maybe a Saturday morning or a Sunday morning. Mm-hmm. So we just... I think we went drinking that night. We drank a lot, and then we were all huddled up and we can't go to sleep now, because if we go to sleep now, we're gonna miss it. So we just were just cooling off a buzz and waiting for the thing, and then it got announced, and that whole conference was that panel was so hyped because I didn't know what was gonna get announced. I was just sitting there, and my friend was like, and they couldn't say anything, and I was when you watch Game of Thrones with someone who's read the books, that guy.
So were you with Ben Judd at the time? Because he'd read.
Oh God, no.
No. You were with people who knew what.
Yeah, the whole thing is kind of I mean, we know when stuff is happening in Osaka, so it was someone who was I was basically told, someone told me you have to watch this. I watched it, and I had basically as soon as the Kickstarter came up, I was just I need this. And I remember I'm a backer. I pledged at the art book level because. I mean, the art is amazing. Sure. And I'm number 1046, which since our numbers start at 900, I may be the 146th person who pledged. And I'm really proud of that. That's the number I use in the forums instead of my employee number, who's it's 234. So yeah, it was a big deal for me. And honestly, despite not having the legacy of having played all of Inafune-san's games before, I really like what was being pitched as a new IP, as a new fandom. I'm a big fan of platformers. Platformer shooters are all I've made. For my BA, I made a platformer shooter. For my master's degree, the idea was to create a world for a platformer shooter. It's just what I do. It's what I love. So that idea sold it to me without having all the backgrounds. I can only imagine for a pre-existing fan base seeing all of that, especially with the really well done video. I would have lost my mind. I mean, I lost my mind regardless. But
yeah,
I don't know.
I can't help but be not annoyed with you, of course not, but the fact that anyone, because I'm getting a little sense that your Mega Man fan cred has been questioned at some point because you didn't grow up with Mega Man 2. You only ended up playing Mega Man X later on. But the fact that, if you ask me, that you were able to pick up the series long after it had initially been released and still found something in it. If Mega Man 2 came out today, I can't promise that I would take notice of it, but since it came out at a time when it was the kind of game that was being made all the time, and I was a kid, it was it's in my DNA, basically. It's kind of Mega Man is my uncle, and I've known him my whole life, so of course I love him. But if somebody meets my uncle today and is I love this guy, in a way that means something more than him just being a member of your family to
right.
Want to marry my uncle. So you're married to my uncle.
That is, well.
That makes sense almost.
No, that made total sense. Honestly, yeah, after the interview, after I got the interview and I got the job, I was well, I need to catch up now because, I mean, No, between the second and the first and second interview, I think I just went to the Nintendo eShop and just started buying these games, and I was like, how do they hold up? Because I've always loved the music. Like when I used to go to like a video game bar a lot, and sometimes I would like get to like choose the music there, and I had like Mega Man 2 music always up on there because it's excellent music. Like even the first one, like the first one is amazing. The second one is my personal favorite, just everybody's favorite. But yeah, the games really hold up. It's crazy because and this idiot didn't realize that you could. Did you know on the 3DS if you're playing retro games you can have like a save state?
Oh yeah. I didn't know that at first, and I don't think it works for GBA games, unfortunately, the Ambassador games. But yeah, you can press the screen down there and hooray.
Yeah, I didn't realize that until after I beat 1, 2, and 4.
That's hard. Like if I remember correctly.
I'm so pissed off. I'm not happy about this because there was a lot of blood. Those hippos. I hate those hippos.
Mega Man 4 hippos. What are they in Toadman stage? I think so. Those are the snails. My bad. I mix up snails.
The snails are awful too, but the hippos just drove me nuts.
But that was the real experience when I played those games as they came out. I was a huge Mega Man fan as a kid. I met a exchange student from Japan who had a magazine, a Famicom magazine, detailing Mega Man 2 before it came out in the United States, and I just like read that magazine backwards, forwards, months in a row, and then ended up like camping out. Yeah, I didn't read it like in terms of words. I was just like, I bet it says this.
Oh, that's so cute.
He throws metal gears. I was intensely excited. I would camp out in Toys R Us, not knowing release dates back then. So I was like, maybe it'll come out today. I'm going to go to Toys R Us again today and just wait and see if they put the box out, and they didn't. Up to like Mega Man X actually when I was like 16. But anyway, enough about me. Yes, you experienced those games as they were meant to be played, which is awesome. The save state thing, it's convenient, but at the same time it kind of changes the experience away from the way the original designers intended. So I think it's good. Once again, a good thing that you didn't know about it.
I mean, trust me, the second I realized the save state was there when I was playing, I want to say 6, I was like, you know what? Screw gaming cred. I would save state right in front of every semi-tiny boss and just be like, nope, he hit me, start over. Nope, he hit me, start over. No. I think I ended up spending more time like this than I did actually playing it and being careful. Because I just became so gung-ho. I was like a Quentin Tarantino movie character. I was like, I don't... All right, whatever.
Yeah, on the roof of the car, just hanging on for dear life, not wanting to give up. Yeah, it makes sense. That's a Quentin Tarantino movie reference. So you said your BA was in level design and in 2D platforming?
Not at all.
No.
Where I came from, I was a pioneer, yeah. Where I come from, Lebanon, there was no, at the time, anything to do with video games being taught anywhere. I originally wanted to be a genetics engineer, which has nowhere, yeah. And then when I was in high school, I remember my biology teacher loved me, and I was talking to him, and he was like, well, why do you want to become a genetics engineer? And I go like, well, I want to splice human DNA with like fish and make mermaids, and then splice horse DNA with people and then make centaurs. And he's like, not only is that horrifying, that's also illegal. You're probably gonna go to jail. And I looked at him and I was like, well, fuck it, I'll be an artist then. And he was like, what? And yeah, and I just decided right then and there I was gonna be an artist. And when I thought about art, the only art I could think of was video games. And unfortunately, there's nothing that teaches video games in Lebanon, not even close. Level design, game design, what is even that? So I went into fine arts because it taught you a lot about 3D modeling, just drawing, you know, people drawing, character design, inadvertently through like classic fine arts studies. You learn a lot of the tools you need as an artist for a concept artist, like light, form, value, all of that stuff that you need to like express yourself. So and what I learned from game design, I learned from reading Gama Sutra.
Really?
Yes. I downloaded, was it Chris Taylor's GDD, I think.
I'm not familiar with that.
There was like a template that was like being passed around at that time of how GDDs worked, game design documents.
Oh,
and yeah, so I just started downloading templates and reading like postmortems that designers were doing on Gamma Sutra. I remember one that really stuck with me because I had played the game was the one for Indigo Prophecy of Fahrenheit.
Oh, sure.
Where like I was playing the game and I was like, what is all this crap crammed in at the end? And then I read the postmortem and then David Cage, I think, goes like, what was that crap crammed in? We kind of crammed in a bunch of crap at the end because we didn't have time. And I was like, oh, all right. So these people are human. This is great. And yeah, so everything I've learned basically when it comes to game design, level design, all of that was either books, the internet, which is why I loved the internet, and just I had this one teacher who was amazing, and together we basically kind of jump-started the video game department in my university, so now you can kind of get a specialty, fine arts with specialty in video games. And that was how it started. When I graduated, and my graduation project, everyone was like painting and like, painting, and I was like, video game!
You strike me as someone who has instinctually rubbed against the grain at times. Not on purpose, but just naturally. Everyone's going this way, you find yourself just, without even meaning to, going the other way for a long time. Even being a young woman playing video games growing up in Lebanon, did that cause you to stand out? Or were there a lot of girls playing video games when you were a kid?
I want to say there were tons of girls playing video games, but that would be a lie. It's unfortunate. There were a few of us, and we found each other, and we used to like huddle up and just like write horrible Final Fantasy VIII fan fiction, and and I grew up. I was the only girl, and like the oldest kid. I'm sorry, my English is terrible. The oldest kid in like a generation of like maybe my little brother, my other cousin, and all my cousins were dudes basically. There's just dudes everywhere. It was a sausage fest, and so basically whatever. And my parents never really made the distinction between me and my brother. Like whatever toy you like reach for, just get it. So I remember my dad once like coming back home and having like one of those horrible. Did that happen in actual countries, or is it just like us with our off-brands? It was a Tetris game, but just Tetris. So like it was like one like elongated looking Game Boy that's only function was Tetris. All it did was Tetris, and it had like a little monkey character that like excitedly jumped up and down and said something like "Pony up" or whatever you did, like you cleared a line. And that was my first video game, and I was in love with Tetris. And my brother and I would like have like these Tetris wars where like we would fight over the thing, and I would steal the battery so he couldn't play. I was kind of a dick. Sorry, wow.
Well, yeah, sibling rivalry, sibling competition is what makes you strong a lot of the time, and you wanted to win Tetris or some off-brand monkey Tetris.
Wait, off-brand monkey Tetris is the best Tetris? I just want to say.
Tell me more. Why is that?
Because because that little monkey really made you want to like make him happy and just clear those lines. It was like positive reinforcement, and then you got like these stacks of bananas that I still don't know how they work, and it was amazing. Off-brand stuff is so fascinating. For example, my second console, or like my first real console, was something we in Lebanon called the Atari. What I realized upon coming to Japan and seeing a Famicom for the first time is that it was actually a Chinese off-brand Famicom preloaded with separate levels of every game ever made. I didn't even know cartridges went in that thing.
Wow.
It just came with like all the levels of Super Mario, like just like
in a thing.
Separated. Yeah, and then you could just go in and be like, I feel like playing 8-4 straight up today. Yeah, and then you just get murdered. You're like, okay, I'm gonna start back in the beginning and stop.
And you called it an Atari? Did it have any Atari
Everyone calls
games on
it an Atari. No, it had nothing to do with an Atari. It's just how it worked in Lebanon, or even I think the Middle East. There was a huge piracy culture. I never saw a real PS1 CD, the ones with the black. When I first saw the black back, I freaked out. I was like, trying to sell me some weird shit, and the guy's like, what? I'm like, why is this $40 instead of $2? And the guy's like, I'm like, He tried to explain to me that it was an original, but I just didn't get it.
Yeah.
And I feel really bad in retrospect because I would never pirate a game now. These are my people. But back then, I was just like, we would go to the corner store with like the old man who had like one tooth, and he would like bring out this like huge folder of like video game photocopy covers, slam it down, be like, what you want? And you just like go through them, be like, I want this one and this one, and then it was kind of like buying apples because sometimes like in case that one is bad, just give me two CDs.
It was, yeah, because if you're buying apples and it might be bad, you want two just in case the other one's better. And it was the same with
I don't know.
Games. No,
I don't know how America does it. Don't you buy like apples by the kilo? Because that's what we do.
Yeah.
Sorry, pounds? I don't know the metrics.
Yeah, you know, measurements. They're all basically the same. Yeah, you would go and pick out which apples you want, and then potentially have them weighed. And
sometimes it was a Japanese apple. Like that first time I played Final Fantasy IX, I played it in Japanese, and I had no idea what was going on. And I actually got through the first CD.
Really?
Yeah, by the time I got through the first CD, the English version was out.
Got it.
Which is really sad.
Did your save carry over, or did you have to start over with the English?
No, I had to start over. They did not carry over. You should try this.
Yeah.
The saves do not carry over at all.
Yeah, good to know. I wouldn't blame yourself for pirating. It doesn't sound like you had much of an option because, for whatever reason, most game publishers don't look to the Middle East as a viable market. They don't do much to put their stuff out there, I'd imagine. If they did, you would have at least seen a black back disc at some point. But I mean, there's piracy.
Oh, yeah, I did. But I mean, when I saw it, I was just like, oh God,
yeah,
have I been
rare.
like?
Yeah. It took a little while before you did that. So yeah, I wonder why that is. Do you have any insights as someone who's lived it as to why you think the bigger publishers or smaller publishers don't do much to actually sell their stuff legitimately in the Middle East?
I don't know. I could make jokes about brown people, but I'd rather not.
Sure, but it sounds like the audience is there. People want...
Yeah, and the sad thing is, the Middle East, sorry to interrupt you, but the Middle East has one of the highest concentration of young people ever. We make babies like crazy. There's kids everywhere, and they all play video games. So I honestly, as someone from the Middle East who grew up there and lived there their whole life, I don't understand why we're not being marketed to. Probably because the piracy problem was so big, we'd been ignored for so long that there was just basically no coming back from it. You can't tell someone who paid $2 their whole life for like a fat stack of games to just be like, well, now you got to pay $60 a pop.
Sure. But I would imagine this is trying to think outside the box. If you managed it the way people are managing piracy here in the United States, maybe in Japan too, where you try to align yourself with your audience and say, please pay for this thing because I care about you as a person. I'll show that in this way. And, you can care back by, probably not $60, but if pirates are selling the game for $2, they could sell it for $4. It's probably better than selling it to nobody. And
it's definitely working. Yeah. No, Steam is like doing really good in that aspect. I feel like Steam changed the game a lot.
Yeah.
In the Middle East. I mean, my circle of friends now, we all, like, none of us pirate. We just don't do that. Also, another thing that really helps is multiplayer. Because if you want to play online, which is, funny enough, COD is really big in the Middle East.
Really?
Yeah, I know you're laughing because you know why I'm making this face, but it is. Yeah. It's really, really big. I mean, FPSs are really big. I remember with my really close friend, like one of my closest friends, like we used to date, and when we dated, he used to have these huge Halo LAN parties where we'd go to like a big vacant house of some rich dude he knew, and then they would have like little CRT TVs, kind of like 3 or 4 of them in a room, and you can hook up Xboxes, and you would have just like an Xbox Halo LAN party.
Sure.
And it was, people would go through like unimaginable lengths just to play with other people. Couch multiplayer is huge in the Middle East, or at least in Lebanon, and multiplayer in general now really picked up. Like people, it's huge. I mean, my brother just loves the heck out of GTA 5, and he'd been like trying to get me to buy it on the PS4 to play with him for the longest time.
For the online mode, yeah.
Yeah, he just loves it.
I wonder, do you feel like there's an untapped market to make a game that not only has these gameplay elements, but also is culturally attuned to the Middle Eastern market. Like, for a long time, Japanese games were what sold in the United States the most because, in my opinion, most Western developers didn't even try to make sure that the game was tuned to the Western market. And then once games started to get to be big money, big publishers said, well, we could make a lot of money if we make something that's GTA, that's Call of Duty, that's something that speaks to American culture. And I'm hearing that there's all these people in the Middle East who are having to eat up American culture type stuff in order to get the kind of gameplay they want. So I wonder. Maybe that would be good.
I honestly, I don't know what catering to the Middle Eastern market will look like.
Yeah?
I mean, I learned English from subbed Stallone movies that my dad used to rent. That's where my slur comes from.
Like Rambo and Cobra and Over the Top?
Yes, and Rocky.
Oh, I forgot about Rocky. That's probably the more obvious one. So do you feel like there is a gap there between what, in terms of pop culture, what young people in the United States would want and what people in the Middle East would want? Or is that everybody just wants GTA, Call of Duty, and the same kind of themes, same kind of settings? It's a good fit?
I don't know. I feel like American culture, at least to me, is pretty much global culture by now. I don't want to be disrespectful to all the cultures all across the world, but it's pretty ubiquitous, and I mean, I grew up with it. I mean, the problem with Lebanese culture is that the civil war permeates it so much, and it's so there, that I'm worried that any game we might make would be so steeped in that. I mean, going to art school there, every other project was about something, the scars of the Civil War, and I was here just making my dumb video games. And really, I want some positive, like, there's been so much, I don't know if I'm qualified to, like, talk about this, but there's been so much pain and just, like, suffering and, like, just horrible crap happening in the Middle East that I'm just not picky with my escapism. Like, I would rather not shoot brown people in it. That would be great. But, I mean,
yeah,
I don't know. It's just weird. I mean,
100%. I'll pitch my idea to you off the top of my head. I would want a game where I play as somebody like you, going to buy pirated PS1 games, going to, like, underground metal concerts, running around the city, just being a Middle Eastern teenager, young adult, just living that experience and finding out through that game that it's not that different than the experience I have too. Maybe you would play just like the friends used to. Yeah, that would. I don't know if anyone would care in Lebanon that, you know, it would be a little bit of a token attempt to replicate the experience of living in Lebanon. But as someone who's never lived in Lebanon, that would be super interesting to me. Like, I would buy that game in a heartbeat. I wonder if anyone wants to make it, though, because it would be...
You're a lot more attuned to my people than I am. I mean, like, that sounds... You're saying it now, and that sounds like a really good idea, but I don't know. I don't know who would make that. Like,
yeah,
I know there's some efforts now that some people are making video games for us, by us, but it all feels so pandering sometimes. I don't know where to draw the line, really. I
would imagine that, and like you were saying before, being defined by, well, it's about the Middle East, or it has to be about war, it has to be about strife. And I've got that story already. That's what the American news media feeds us about what it's like to live in the Middle East constantly. And I would want somebody like you to tell me what it's actually like, and maybe it's not that different than my life as it is right now.
I don't know, did you used to try and buy quarter beers when you were like 15 at like the store by, you know, just flashing kind of your cleavage? Because that's what it's like.
I did not. My cleavage at 15 was not, it was somewhat striated because I did a lot of push-ups, but it wasn't sexy, I don't think. It was a little veiny.
It didn't work, by the way. We always had to send out our other 15-year-old friend that actually had some beard coming in. God bless Arabic facial hair. Arab people facial hair. Because he would just go in, and the guy would be like, so how old are you? And I'd be like, I'm totally 18. That broken voice. And we'd be like huddled in the car, just like, come on, do it. And it was the crappiest beer ever.
It sounds like an awesome game. I would play that game in a heartbeat. Buying Lebanese beer. Yeah, whatever you'd want to call it. I'm sure you'd think of something marketable. Speaking of marketing, before I forget, the composer of Mighty Number 9 is also composing the music for a game by our friends. These guys, I don't particularly know them, actually. I shouldn't call them friends. I like them. They emailed me and were like, can we give away CDs to Sub Holmes viewers? I was like, yes.
Terrible.
I know, how nice of them. There, I'm reading off the blog so I don't get it wrong. Touch 10 Games. So if you, maybe you've heard of them. Yeah, I believe they're in Singapore. The same composer for Mighty Number 9, Manami Matsume?
So close.
I'll never get anything right. How do I really
Manami Matsumae, so the E is an A.
Thank you. Manami Matsumae.
And she's awesome, by the way.
I bet she is.
She's so fun. She's great. I love her. She lives like 10 minutes away from me 5 minutes away, like right by my station.
Wow. She did the music for Mega Man 1, Mega Man...
She also worked on 2. Well, she wasn't main on 2, but she worked on a few songs. If I remember correctly.
And then 9 and 10.
I would say Bubble Man, I'm not sure.
Yeah, that sounds right. That sounds right. And Nitro Man in Mega Man 10, which I really liked. Anyway, well, belabored point. Touch 10 Games is making a game called Target Acquired. Matsumae? Mai. I was right the first time. She is doing the music. They're giving away CDs. The way to win it, I decided right now, is to email me at jonathan@destructoid.com with a compliment for the composer of those songs. Tell her how awesome she is. I'll try to. Yeah, I'm sure you will. And you, watching at home, if you want one of her CDs, there's 4 to give away. Email me that compliment. I will get it to her. And the compliments that we pick out together that she likes the most will receive a CD. And on top of that, if you go to touch10games.com/subholmes and back their Kickstarter if you want to, you can get the CD for half off. Right now it's $100 to get it. If you back $50 and comment Subholmes after you do, going through that link, you will get it for half off. That's assuming you don't win it, so try to win it first. Anyway, thank you for letting me take a quick break. Probably gave you a chance to think about what you want to talk about next. I know what I want to talk about next, which is some of the games you've made. What kind of games have you done? Because that's what got into Comcept 4, if I understand right. You wanted to make games with them, and who wouldn't? And clearly, if you ask me, your social skills are incredibly good, so they're going to want you in the community manager position. But
Thank you.
Oh, anytime. You've been very good at talking. So, but game design is still really what you're hoping to do in the long run. Is that right?
Yes. Yeah. I've always wanted to do games. This is like one of the most cliche things, but anyone that you talk to that's basically going through what it takes to go through to be in this industry, especially as, sorry, don't hate me for saying this, people, but especially as a non-white, non-American, non-cis, het, whatever. That's all, like, just keep, like, just as non, like, as not
all
usual
the nons.
Yeah, all of that stuff. As, like, as anything that isn't a white dude. Is really a lot of work. So if we're in the industry, usually it's someone with an inordinate amount of love for it. Even in like stuff I found like marketing, accounting, it's just people who really want to be there.
Sure. Well, you have a master's degree. Is that?
Yes.
That's right.
I got it. I mean, the way I got to Japan was I was on a government scholarship. I applied through the embassy, Japanese embassy in Lebanon. And I was like one of the 3 people that year who got it, and then you get like a full ride to Japan, just 2 tickets, ticket here and ticket back to your country, and they pay for like everything. You just have to like convince them that your research is worth doing. And yeah, I really honestly, anyone who's thinking about coming to Japan and who doesn't have like, who wants like graduate studies, go for it. It's amazing. It's a great program. I totally recommend it as an alumni. I don't know if that's how you pronounce that.
Yeah, I think so. What was your research on?
Well, originally it was supposed to be about how Beirut, the capital city of Lebanon, and Tokyo sprawl out into the an urban cancer that sprawls out into, how do you say?
Suburban.
Yeah, suburban areas, like more like uncharted areas, and slowly eat away at like the natural beauty, and how that could become like that slow crawl, kind of disorganized crawl in both cases. I mean, the two cities have a lot in common, except that one is dirt poor and the other one is like woo. And I just wanted to study the similarities between that and how both cities just rose up after horrific wars, and just draw on that to build a game. That was the initial idea. But you don't get to choose your placement. Although I did get into like a really big school in Tokyo, I also got into a school in Kyoto and a school, I want to say in Fukuoka. But the embassy, one of the risks of this program is the embassy chooses where to put you. And they looked at what I had to offer and they were like, you know what? We want you in Kyoto. And I was like, well, you know, Nintendo's in Kyoto, so I'm not going to say no. I was going through puberty at the time. No, I'm just kidding.
And so you've been, I mean, it's not something, you'd have to be a real master actress, which I don't, no offense, but you don't strike me as that type. Every time you bring up a point in your life, it somehow gets back to video games. So even then, you were thinking like Nintendo? And for your master's degree, you were thinking make a game about the similarities between Tokyo and Beirut? That's and before I forget, what came of the project? Because that would be an incredible game.
I had to scrap it because I wasn't going to Tokyo, and Kyoto is a very different beast. So what I did end up doing is another game world based up. Well, my focus was on creating worlds that you could use as skins for any type of game mechanic you wanted. So what I do is I create mythologies, worlds, characters, bonds between characters, and I just leave story open. So I lay the basis. I do the story to the writers and the actual game making to the game designers. But I give you, like, you can throw at me, the point is you throw at me any type of mechanic and I outfit it into a living, breathing world, which for me was always the best part of video games, which is why I love Zelda so much, is because it's all about the little details that make up a real ecosystem. I mean, when you're in Hyrule, it's real. There's like these little people doing these little things, and although you know it's like the same NPC just like giving you the same 3 sentences over and over, there's so much of it that is just kind of like you see the relationships and the underlying like little feuds between the character, and like it's just so good. You could get lost in it for hours, and that's what I wanted to do. And then the gameplay just feeds into that. So my focus of my research was to be able to work with these other people of other disciplines and create a living, breathing world for people to get lost in video games.
When was this?
I got my master's degree April 2013.
Oh, got it. So pretty recently.
Yes.
Awesome.
And the world I ended up creating, because I couldn't go to Tokyo, so I shifted it, and it became reinterpreting Alice in Wonderland, which I know is horribly cliche, but hear me out. Alice in Wonderland is great because it's a story based just on character interaction. There's no actual story. You just go from character meeting to character meeting. It's just character development. And all the characters are so good. So for someone who wants to do character design, it's a perfect setup. What I did do, though, is I changed Alice, or Alice became a projection of who I was going into what at the time was my video game mecca, my Wonderland, which is Japan. I didn't realize how much the two worlds would collide at that point, where, you know, like, Alice goes into Wonderland thinking it's the perfect world. She's like, oh, wouldn't it be great if there was like a world made of nonsense? And I was like, we're made of video games. Sorry, I'm an idiot. So wouldn't it be great if that was it? And then the reality of it is so different from what she expected that it's just, it kind of becomes like this huge culture shock.
Sure. Well,
and that's what I wanted to work on. That culture shock breathed into a video game world, and I ended up creating. Make it quick, Dina. I ended up creating this world with this Alice that was supposed to be a projection of me, just basically going through all the experiences I've gone through living in Japan, and each experience was distilled into one of the main characters of Alice in Wonderland, but they look nothing like the actual thing. Like, I just recently got...
You mean not like the traditional Alice in Wonderland characters? You kind of recreated them, or...?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at it, and I don't tell you this is Alice in Wonderland, you would just be like, I don't know.
Perfect. Well, yeah, that's what I would want. I would want your interpretation of those icons and those themes. So,
I mean, everybody's naked. That's for one. But that's my fine art background. I just love drawing the human form. So everyone's naked, and every time you meet someone, it like translates into a tattoo, because they become part of you in a sense. So the older people in this world are just completely tatted up. The young people, or those who just come in, like Alice, when she first gets in, she's like immaculate. There's nothing on her, which is what makes her stand out. And like, you know, when like you're a foreigner and you come to a new country, you stand out. You're out of place, and then slowly you integrate. But the story with Alice is that she never really does integrate, because Japan is like really hard to get into. So I wanted to make that experience into a coherent world that you could outfit onto an adventure game.
That sounds incredible. Did the game ever happen? Is it gonna happen? Is it happening?
Oh, the theory is all laid down. Like my thesis is all laid down, and it's kind of an exploration into because visually I draw on the feedback loop, or I call it a feedback loop, that is how Japanese and American culture feed off each other, which is super interesting. And I really would like for you to look into that, because a lot of things that people consider quintessentially Japanese, like off the top of my head, the sailor outfit, actually came from them absorbing foreign culture, often American culture, and then digesting it, which is a very Japanese thing, and then making something extremely Japanese out of it.
Right. Well, sure. I mean, I hope I'm getting his name right. Osamu Tezuka? Is that right?
Yeah.
Astro Boy. Yeah. He loved Disney, and he wanted to, you know, his Mickey Mouse was Astro Boy, from what I've read anyway, which is completely different. But at the same time, we wouldn't have anime eyes if it weren't for Astro Boy, which was derivative of Mickey Mouse's like big Pac-Man looking eyes, if I remember his eyeballs right. So yes.
I hate to be that guy.
No, please correct me. That's what I love.
Actually, it was based on Snow White's eyes. And if you look at Snow White, you really see the anime eyes, and you're like, oh, okay, yeah, I see it. So yeah, basically anime sprouted out, or like the stylistic, what became anime sprouted out of American culture and American cartoons, and isn't that crazy? And then, you know, you know Powerpuff Girls, which is one of my favorite cartoons ever. That's a homage to like kaiju movies. Like each episode you have a different monster that comes out of the sea, destroys the city, and then the Powerpuff Girls, these like basically homage to anime girls with like these huge eyes, are really cute, and they have like these tiny little voices, like magical girls basically, kick some ass, and then, you know, they live to fight another day. And it was basically so American, but it was based on Japanese culture. And then Japanese culture took that and that aesthetic of like the very clean lines and simplified style, Craig McCracken and Lauren Faust's ethic. Wow. That word.
Oh, no.
I mean, aesthetic is what I was trying to say. And they took it, and then they just spat out panty and stocking with garter belt, if you've seen that. That's Gainax mimicking Cartoon Network style. Or doing a homage.
Which was influenced by Magical Girl, Tenchi Mio, anime stuff.
So you have this amazing feedback loop of just like another case study I did. It was pop surrealism on the West Coast, which draws so much from Japanese art. But that Japanese art is drawing from American. So yeah, that was like a big case. So what I was trying to do, that was like the theoretical part of my thesis, and I'm boring you to tears. What I was trying to do is take that like very like amazing osmosis that Japanese culture does, which is like just digesting things and making them something new and unique and very Japanese, although they come from someone completely not Japanese, and do that with my world of like taking all these quintessentially Japanese things that I was experiencing in Kyoto, which is a really old, beautiful Japanese city. Like, you can't get much more Japanese than Kyoto, honestly. It's just like gates everywhere, like those big red gates everywhere. In front of my house, there was always a procession of monks. I don't even know where they were going. I don't even know where they were coming from. There was like nothing around that they would be, but they were just like every month for one, you would just like, I would wake up to like chants, and they were like wearing their hats and just like walking the street, or like chasing demons with like these two like smacking. It was amazing. So I was like in complete Wonderland, and I was just digesting that, and I made something which was a bunch of naked people, Alice in Wonderland, pop surrealist, really weird world. I'd probably have to put clothes on them to actually make it into a game that wasn't rated M for what the hell's going on. But yeah, it was quite the experience, and I'm glad I got the chance to do that here of all places.
Yeah, and good on you for seeking that experience, taking all the risks, because you could have just safely become a biologist and be getting paid, probably 10 times what you're getting paid now. But you took the financial risks, you took the creative risks, you took the risks with your physical being, transporting yourself to a completely different country where you did not have any idea whether you would be accepted in the culture, ever find friends. You did it.
Now that you put it like that, it's really kind of sad.
It's amazing that you're willing to live a life that involves this kind of adventure. Instead of playing it safe and avoiding risk, which is much easier to do, taking the path that is a guarantee comfort, making sure you have money, making sure you stay where you belong, doing the things you're asked to do by the people who will pay you. Instead, here you are. Congratulations on life. You've already succeeded. Just keep doing things like this, please, because I selfishly want to play all these games you're thinking of. But on the topic you were so eloquently bringing up before, the kind of exchange through osmosis, through chewing up and spitting out, I immediately thought of Suda51, whom I really like his work a lot. He tries to chew up, from what he's told me anyway. When he makes a game, he often doesn't think about it. He feels it. He thinks about things that he loves, gets that feeling, chews it up, and then just poops out, as he puts it, anything that comes to mind. But it's relatively rare, from what I can tell, from Japanese developers to be like, I'm going to do my take on all this American culture and Japanese culture stuff that I loved and reinterpret it. We see a lot more American developers, especially as we've grown up with Japanese games, like Super Meat Boy is a reinterpretation of Super Mario Brothers, and you see that kind of thing a lot more often. But with the Japanese devs being in Japan, do you see them taking American culture and trying to make their own version of it? Like Mighty Number 9 to me seems quintessentially Japanese, but I don't know if there's any secret Western influence in there that I might be missing.
No, it's pretty much Japanese from beginning to end.
Which is, and likewise, I don't know, maybe they just know that that's what we want, because there was an attempt a long time ago, you might have heard about, some Western developers were given the Mega Man license by Capcom and were like, make a first-person shooter with like a muscular robot man, and they got into prototype mode, prototype phase, and it never got out of there. Because, we wouldn't have gone for it. I know I wouldn't have.
Heard of that.
Yeah, I'll send you the link after the show. We wrote about it on Destructoid. I think Tony Ponce, who is our resident Mega Man aficionado. Actually, it's because of Tony Ponce. I got to do a quick shout-out to him. He went to the Mighty Number 9 PAX panel, and he came back and was like, look at this T-shirt. I was like, oh, what? He's like, yeah, they got T-shirts. They got like 5 left. I booked down there, and they were like, were you in the panel? I'm like, yeah.
Yeah, that's the right answer. You just go, yes. Yes, I was, and I was cheated out of a T-shirt.
They knew I was lying, but they saw my enthusiasm and gave me a shirt anyway. I keep that shirt in a airtight sealed case in my, because I never want anything.
Wow.
It's like
I wear it. I feel bad now.
I won't worry, something happened to it anyway. But yeah. Long story short, do you see much of that in Japan when it comes to the game development scene? Are people trying to do this exchange of cultures, or is it pretty much sticking to what Japan has always done and does best?
What Japan has always done and does best is create stuff that is quintessentially Japanese. But I don't know if they realize that, but a lot of the stuff they end up doing is just so personal that it has mass appeal, if that makes any sense.
Sure. The fact that, like, Final Fantasy IX, which I've been thinking about, like, all week for some reason. There's
so
nothing.
Good.
Yeah, isn't it good? It's not in any way, doesn't feel like Western influence, but the themes are so universal and expressed in such a delicate and heartfelt way that I'm hoping that game did well and found universal acclaim. I should look into the sales, but But yeah, that speaks to me. Like when I hear a Japanese role-playing game, I always think I hope it's like Final Fantasy IX, and I've deeply connected that feeling with the kind of games that come from Japan. So that's what I think of. Oh, and then Bayonetta. That's an example of one. We talked about it a little bit on Twitter a while ago.
I love Bayonetta. I didn't play the first one.
Yeah.
But Bayonetta 2 is so badass. I can't get enough. Every time, the last thing I did was fight the masked Lumen.
Oh, sure.
Oh my god. There are 2 games right now that I'm playing that are just like, you know, when you play a game, you go like, this is what games are supposed to be. This is it.
Yeah.
This is the feeling. And there's 2 feelings. There's like, oh, child wonder. Of like when you played video games as a child and you're like, oh my god, this is so great. I'm just so into it. Which is what Captain Toad gives me.
Oh, sure.
It's
so
so
good.
good.
Japan, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Which is the best part about Japan. It's just like, everything's out. Yes. And the second one was Bayonetta 2, which was basically my revelation of the year. Because I was one of those douchebags that looked at the character and was like, Dead or Alive, the platformer, or like Dead or Alive, the action game, really? I don't want to play that. So I was being a complete dick about it until like I started seeing these people, which is really the cool thing about Twitter, is like I see all these people I respect, you included, just being like, it's an awesome game. And I'm like, all these like feminists I respect and not feminists, and all these people just being like, and there's so much conversation around it. Some people saying, oh, it's terrible for the children's, and other people being like, it's a great game and it's really empowering and you should play it. And something you said really stuck with me, which is like, yeah, I think you were the one telling me, well, it doesn't actually appeal much to a male audience. Like,
yeah.
Like most Bayonetta players are not your typical gamer dude.
Yeah, a lot of the people who've been most vocal about it, in my experience, it's been people who just don't even care if it's a man or a woman. They just love the gameplay mechanics. But people who actually look up to Bayonetta, it's all women. Like all the people I know who are big fans of the character, who like have Bayonetta posters and whatnot. It's all women who are like, can we take back this position of power and also make fun of some of the things that are considered overly feminine, but you know, in a way that takes, again, ownership of it and enjoy it for ourselves. Like Bayonetta and Bayonetta 2, from what I've gathered anyway, she's doing it for herself and she's having a friggin' good time of it. And she's not posing for anybody. She's posing because, and I look up to her. Like I would love to feel that confident and like strut out with gigantic long legs and be like, check me out, guys. You can't have me, but I'm going to feel good while I'm showing it off and just blow them all away. That would be like I would come in.
I endorse that. I would kickstart that, honestly.
It's kind of you to say. I don't think it would have the effect I'd be going for. But Bayonetta pulls it off with her confidence. But we had talked a tiny bit on Twitter about the fact that the marketing for the game, and I'm guessing it was... It was so underconfident in that they didn't seem to think, well, if we sell this game as a game that's like in part for women to have like a cool female role model, instead we felt like we needed to say in every other sentence of the marketing, well, she's sexy and sexual. And if you like sex, then the sex will happen because the sex is in the game.
It doesn't even go into sex, it goes boobs, boobs, boobs,
and her boobs, you don't even see her boobs.
And I'm like...
She scares a little boy with her vagina once in Bayonetta 2, which is one of my favorite scenes. Yeah, it's sex as power for women is largely the message. It's a game made by committee, of course, so sometimes strays from that message, but largely that was the message of it. But that's not the message the marketing sent at all. It was like sex as object for you to eat up, as opposed to for you to embody and feel sexually empowered yourself. What a bummer!
It was a total bummer, because just watching that Nintendo Direct where they first showed the trailer, maybe a year ago, I watched the whole thing going like, oh, it's her, or like her again, or like, god damn it. And it felt like Nintendo has always been trying to shed this for kids image that they have, which for the life of me I don't understand why. It's like, just embrace it. You guys are awesome at it. And Bayonetta is part of that effort of like, look, we could appeal to adults. But it's like, yeah, but adults, you're appealing to adults that act like children.
You're appealing to, and I don't mean to cut you off, but I think this is lobbing onto your thought well. There's this ongoing insecurity amongst video game culture in general. Like, if I play this, do I look like I'm a kid? Which then causes an overcompensation of like, well, I need to play like super grown-up games, so I'm like totally a grown-up for sure, right? And it's often something teenagers feels like they don't want to be made fun of for liking kids games, so they I know as a teenager I lobbed onto stuff that was like tough and rebellious just for the sake of feeling like I wasn't a kid anymore. But to market Bayonetta like that is a little bit of a misfire, because it was you that said this. If they had marketed it as like, yeah, this is a game for women about being a badass woman, they might have sold it.
For women, just this is about being a badass chick. Look at her summon a huge hair beast that punches another beast in the face. Yes, just sell it like that. And there's like the crotch shots and like the panty shots and the boob shots that everyone was raging about. Having now played it, where are they?
Yeah, they're maybe
nowhere to be found.
In terms of percentage of the game, maybe 1%, and oftentimes it's for either comedic effect or to further establish her as someone who's powerful and in control and something of a badass.
She is. Like, I've never seen anyone like use their vagina as a punch to the face. It's amazing. I don't know how she does it. I don't know if like this is a happy accident on the part of Platinum Games, but oh my god, this is I said it on Twitter. This is like the ultimate. This is the equivalent of a female power fantasy. It's just a female power fantasy is not like the big hulked up. Usually, not the big hulked up woman just like kicks ass. Although the Amazon from Dagger's Crown, yes. That was so amazing. I know I'm a terrible feminist, but I love that game. I love that character, and honestly, like the huge jiggly boob physics of like it's so beautiful. It's drawn in such a beautiful way that whenever the sorceress runs and then her boobs slap her in the face, I love it. I'm sorry.
Her boobs are huge. I don't think this is something I've ranted about for years now. Like, there's this movement towards like, well, don't depict African American people in games with having like dark skin and big lips because they don't all look like that. Well, some of them look like that, and if you have big lips and dark skin, then where's your representation? If you have gigantic boobs, where's your representation in games? It's all in how it's done. And the
it's all over the place.
Yeah, well, that's true. But in terms of representation and being, this is a character who is not just her boobs, and in the context of who she is, you know, there was a pretty awesome boob jam actually by Jen Frank a few years ago. Yeah, that's about like boobs aren't just for this. Boobs are something we can talk about, but they don't have to just be for one specific message to be more or less consumed. Boobs, I guess we all have them in a way. Yeah. Jen Frank, I don't know if you know her, but
Jen Frank is awesome. No, I love her work, but at the same time, yeah, you're right. It's just they're tits. That's it. It doesn't have to be this big deal. Like, nobody, like, there's this whole real big boogeyman of, like, oh, man, all these people that are trying to politicize games into having everyone be flat-chested. I don't know. It's like, no, we're not trying to take away feminine attributes. By all means, just make a character that is all tits. Just make the character a tit with a gun. Whatever. Whatever makes you happy. But it's just...
Sure. It's what you say with that...
character.
Yeah. What you say with that language. If all you say is women are tits, then sure. But you can say, because this person has giant boobs, sometimes they try to buy a beer at age 15, and then it doesn't work, and then their 15-year-old bearded friend has to... You know, it can be work in context to humanize people instead of turning them into objects. That's my law.
Come full circle. And for the record... If they were gigantic boobs, I probably would have gotten that goddamn beer. Unfortunately, they were not.
Sure, I know. Yeah, I can relate. My boobs are not as big as they could be either. Oh, jeez. Man, how am I going to pull us back to talking about something on point? Because that's such a fun tangent, but it's hard for me to come back from it. Jeez. Could you tell me a little bit about... any of the platformers you made? Because I was curious. Oh, no, before we do that, you are a great feminist, and you are an excellent feminizer. Yeah, and in terms of being who should be talking about games and gamer cred and being a hardcore gamer and blah, blah, blah. Out of all the people I know right now in this moment, you've probably overcome more to seek the love of video games than, I mean, you who people should be thinking of as a hardcore gamer when they envision. What does that mean? It should be somebody like you, gosh darn it. I just wanted to yell at you about that for a second.
Thank you. That was really sweet. I just don't know what to say. I'm just like, I used to call myself a hardcore gamer back when I was an idiot teenager and that shit mattered. And then seeing all these people jump on the label really hurt, because okay, this is how sad I was in high school. I used to, my friends were like, not really my friends, but other people in my classroom would give me their PS1 memory cards so I could level up their Final Fantasy characters for them. Because
you were one of the original gold farmers in a way. You were grinding for friendship.
No, I used to get paid for it.
You were the original gold farmer. Who would have ever? That is incredible.
I feel really bad, but grinding for me is one of the best parts of RPGs because I'm sad like that.
I don't think so. I've annoyed very many game developers about this. Game developers, God love them. They have a passion for games that, you know, I wish that I had. Or else, you know, I'd probably be a developer myself, but I'm a sidelines person, a couch developer, a backseat developer. They'll say, oh, I hate this filler, I hate this grinding, and me being the semantic jerk I am will be like, well, it's not filler if you like it. It's not grinding if you're having fun with every, like, is Tetris grinding for lines? No, because you love making the lines happen, so... You
want to make that monkey dance.
Exactly. If you enjoy the process, it's not. And likewise, there's a lot of RPGs. Like, I weirdly, in Pokemon, I will just walk back and forth in that grass and be like, this is the best. I am just.
Be like, hello, 325th Rattata that I fought today.
This time I'm going to beat you even faster. I'll be all excited about it. Maybe I'll level up.
I'm all about that 18 shit points of XP. I'm all about that. And it's really frustrating because when you play the first Pokemon, you don't realize that the areas yield different Pokemon that will give you, like, progressively get harder, the battles, and it's actually faster just go and battle trainers. So if you come through it, like I did, from a JRPG perspective, you're like, oh man, I got my first Pokemon! Time to grind it to level 15 in this shitty grass!
Well, they don't tell you that future grass. I mean, in most RPGs, it's like you go into a cave and it's tougher there, and that happens in Pokemon too. You go into the castle and it's really tough, then you have to get to the dungeon, but it's all basically overworld in Pokemon with the exception of the caves, especially the first one. So how are you to know that other grass is going to be better for you to grind in? Yeah,
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, exactly. I'm with you 100%. Pokemon is probably the most flawedly designed game that I ever thought. I hope they don't change a thing about it. It's perfect, even though it's uniquely flawed in ways that I'm totally endeared to. I love those friggin' games. Back, yes, hardcore gamer. I think a lot of us have been sold on the idea that a hardcore gamer is a certain kind of person, and it's a lot of aspects that are divorced from the fact that they even play video games. Like, hardcore gamer is somebody whom, you know, is living
Drinks
out...
Mountain Dew?
Mountain Dew, Doritos, wants to, like, spend time by themselves at home. That's a little bit of the stigma side. Or on the other side is like someone who's engaging in pseudo-masculine, like faux masculine activities, games that are about being hardcore and tough and blah, blah, blah. But to me, a true video game lover is anyone who's willing to grind in Final Fantasy VII for cash and enjoy it and enjoy their work. So you are my new definition of a hardcore gamer. You're welcome, I guess. I mean, like, it matters what I think anyway. I wonder, we're at 5:09. We have 20 minutes left. What a great episode this is turning out to be. I don't know if we have any questions in. Sinistar will send some over if we do. Maybe we won't. We'll find out. There are already people talking about you in the comments of Destructoid.com.
Oh, Jesus.
Posted this. Yeah, well, it's funny because you have like an air about you, but it's people who haven't gotten to know you yet. So I said, please tune into the show. And there was some art of, it looks kind of like you, but with red hair as Beck from Mighty Number 9. Did you do that art?
Yes, that wasn't me. I wasn't trying to draw myself.
It looks kind of like you. I mean, when I draw people, they all look kind of like me too. So
Exactly. And also, I didn't have reference at the time, so I used my own face as reference. But I tried to be like, don't make it look like you, you hack, you know, with every stroke.
Well, I thought it was very good art. Yeah, is that where you'd want to go? Because you probably won't be in community management forever. The next step, would you want to do the art aspect, the design aspect? Clearly you have interest in both. Is there one that you're a little bit more drawn to than the other at this point?
I think if I'm going to play my strength, it's probably going to have to be art.
Sure.
Like, as in, maybe not concept art. I don't think I'm at that level yet. But at least art directing or, like, any type of world building, anything creative really is more my jam,
sure,
so to speak. But I would honestly, I love touching everything. No pun intended. But, like, I just, like,
yeah.
The platformer I did a platformer for the iOS back. Well, not just me. I was a team. Yeah. That was one of the games I made. Like my first experience. It was an indie game with Blacksmith Games. It's called Plushed. So I wrote that. If you look at the credits, kind of ridiculous. I wrote that. The shitty dialogue. Don't judge me. I was 21. I actually worked. One of the best reviews I got for that is like, this is a this platformer uses the word douchebag and is all the better for it. And I was like, yes!
It's called Plush or Push? Push?
Plushed, as in, well, the joke was, and I hope nobody in retrospect hates me for it, is like, oh god, I'm fucked, but you can't say that because it's a children's game. So it's like, oh no, he's totally plushed, as in he's a plush. And again, don't let me write your game. Ever.
That sounds very funny. So, plushed, like a plushie. You are a plushie in the game?
Yeah, you're a plush bunny, and what happened is, and looking back on it, I'm like, this is just a damsel story. I'm a dick, and yeah, you're a plush bunny that gets sucked into a fairy tale world with your owner, which is a little girl, and then on the way down into that fairy tale world, she gets like separated from you, and she ends up in like a tower of a castle because I am the hack to end all hacks and cliches, and you gain consciousness from being hit with magic, and then all you want is to be close to her again. So you just like, you go through all these levels, and I did the game design as well, so game mechanic, I did level design on old millimeter paper.
Oh wow.
It was like, you know, where one square is one character, so a long jump would be 2 characters and a half, a normal jump is 1 character and a half, so you have to use all these units, and it was great. Like, this is when I used Gamma Sutra, and I love Gamma Sutra for it. Please never stop. This is where I used Gamma Sutra to teach myself about level design, game design, and all of that. And I think the internet is amazing because all the resources are out there, and if you want to learn something, you can just do it. Isn't that nuts?
It is. And
it blows my mind.
I think that a lot of people are intimidated by that because there's so much you could potentially know. And that fear, again, of taking risks is what limits them from getting into it. What if I'm bored? What if I have a bad time? So much easier to just look at cat videos. So much easier to...
Do it! Just do it! If you want to make games. I mean, the way I did it is I was on conceptart.org, which is the mecca of learning to do concept art. Amazing artists. Forever grateful to all of them. And there's like a job board, and someone was like, hey, I'm making an indie game about a knight princess. Can a brother get some help? And I was like, yes! And he's like, can you do game design? And I was like, no. Yes! And he's like, great! And he's like, this is what I have. He sends me like a PDF with like some squiggles on it. And I'm like, okay, awesome, I can work with this. And then I'm like, okay, what's on Gamma Sutra about game design? And I read like the great retrospective by Jonathan Blow at the time. It was amazing. I just kept reading, and I'm like, okay. I think I can do this. But I didn't want, like, a platformer that was a regular platformer, so I was one of those people who thought they were really clever when they made it into a puzzle platformer. And a lot of people complained about that in retrospect, and I love reading the feedback where they were just like, well, you can't kill shit. Why can't I kill shit? And I was like, that's the point. You're a plush little bunny. Yeah. You know, you gotta work your way around the stuff. And like the main mechanic of my game was you use the enemies, like your enemies, if you manipulate them in a certain way, are your key to solving puzzles. Like for the most easy one, there's like a character that's called a pizza eater, and you have to like pick up pizza and like while you're like walking around the level, you can pick up pizza, and then if you move it around the touch screen, he will follow it because he loves pizza so much.
Oh.
And if you drop the pizza, he like jumps on it and his like little butt wiggles, and it's a trampoline.
His butt is a trampoline.
Yeah, he's like a round little trampoline, so you can just like, he's like a moving trampoline. And once people figured that out, they started trying to break the game, which was also great. And I don't know, it's just, in retrospect, and we were actually Game of the Week, I think, or like editor's pick on the US iTunes store for the holiday week. Like, I have that screen capped, and my character was up there, which is a Little Fat Riding Hood, which, again, I'm an insensitive. I was a terrible person. That was some fat shaming, and I'm really sorry. She's like this little Red Riding Hood informer that lives in the sewers, and then like what happened is like whenever her mother would give her the treats to get to her grandmother, she'd be like, "Oh, the wolf took it," and she'd like shovel it down. So she's like this round little goth rebel fat Riding Hood.
I don't see that. I'd have to play it, of course, but she just sounds kind of awesome. Like, I don't see the shame in there exactly.
This is fat jokes, because your sword is a douchebag. It's like an old school British sword, so it has like the mustache as the handle. I know, I'm a hack. And then he's just like, and you're the bunny, you're a good person. So you're trying to talk to her to get information on where the princess is, and then he just goes like, he says really, oh god, I don't even want to tell you the jokes because they're terrible. But he just goes like, is she still eating? Jesus Christ, put that cupcake down for a second. She's like, I'm diabetic. I gotta keep like my levels of sugar up or some crap like that. And then it's horrible.
Well,
I'm ashamed.
No,
I'm
I would
sorry.
not. No, no reason to be ashamed. You can look back on who you were, see that. I'm guessing you were like, I'm working on this game really hard, and I'm hoping people relate with it. And a lot of people love that stuff, so you're like, maybe this will help. Maybe this will get people to keep playing the game. But now that you've gotten older, you can look back on it. Like, next time I'd make Little Fat Riding Hood, was her name?
Yeah.
Yeah, you'd probably make her the hero. You'd probably make her kick ass and not care that she's
not even bad. But like,
no,
you bully her so much that she gets pissed off, and then she becomes the boss of that level.
Gotcha. Huh.
She tries to kick your ass. And then the bunny spends the rest of like the boss battle just yelling at the sword because he's a dick.
All right, I can relate with that.
I'm not selling this, am I?
No, you're totally selling this. So she, the bunny, is pissed at the sword because the sword was a dick that made Little Fat Riding Hood go berserk.
Yep.
You have nothing to be ashamed of. I stamp you unashamed.
Thanks, but still feel bad about that diabetes joke.
Sure, we all move. It sounds like a funny joke, but we all move on and decide that's not who I am anymore. We are not defined by our past. We're defined by who we are now and who we want to be, and that's good stuff in your case.
God.
Yeah, I know, right? Jeez. A lot of stuff I learned from that I totally failed. Thought, oh, this will be funny. Totally awful. And mean sometimes, without meaning to be. I thought, oh, people will laugh at how terrible I am. No, they just thought it was cool to be terrible, and then I hated myself for like a year. I could go on and on about that, but I won't. Dio Birdo asks, did you go to art school, or are you completely self-taught? We talked a little bit how you did go to art school, but prior to that, did you do a lot of self-teaching, and did art school change you a lot? I also, weirdly enough, had an undergrad in art school, and I didn't really learn any technique. I just like worked on it a lot, but the teachers were like, figure it out.
So you just said what I was about to say. You learned shit all in art school. My degree, I often say, is a grade A degree in bullshitting your way through any conversation. It really taught me to like explain things that are complete crap, but in a way that just makes people go, oh, that's so deep.
Yeah, it's artist statement school. You learn how to talk about art in a way that, and I was terrible at that stuff. I was just like trying to make Street Fighter characters. I like forgot about how to, but hopefully I can verbalize things fairly well at this point. But yeah, so something really I don't know, working on it. Hopefully I'll get better. Have you seen the movie Art School Confidential?
No.
I should mail it to you. I don't know.
You should. I don't watch a lot of movies, so yeah. But to answer the other end of the question, everything digital I taught myself. Digital art I taught myself. I bought tutorials off of conceptart.org, and I went there all the time. So digital art-wise, I'm completely self-taught. We didn't have that in our art classes. Like I went to fine art school. And yeah, honestly, the internet was just my savior. Like, I love it.
Yeah, the University of Internet. It's the way to go these days for a lot of people. It's a lot cheaper than tuition. Very good. Well, Kev asks, what is the popularity of indie games Steam games and other digital or non-standard game outlets like in Lebanon. I don't know if you've kept up with how popular indie game scene is, Steam is in general, or whether it's mostly AAA still.
It's mostly still AAA.
Yeah.
As far as I know. I mean, Steam is slowly changing that, but there's so much hassle with buying stuff online when you're Lebanese. For example, I can't register PayPal, and it drives me crazy, because I think my country is blacklisted.
Really?
I think so. I don't know what the actual reason is, but someone once told me, terrorism, and I was like,
wow, really?
I mean, Saudi Arabia's on there, guys. I don't know. Sorry, that was...
No, you make a strong point. Yeah, PayPal is an American company?
I think so.
Yeah, and they can pick and choose that sort of thing. And there might be something gross going on there. I sure hope not.
I hope not. But yeah, maybe there's just not a market for us. But yeah, I haven't really kept up. The circles I revolve in are very, like, gaming-aware circles. Mm-hmm. So all of my friends are very aware of indie. But it's still, the skew is very clearly AAA.
Sure. Yeah, that makes sense.
Football games as an actual football, not what you guys call soccer. You know, ball with the foot.
FIFA and that sort of
that stuff.
Huh, interesting. Yeah. Hopefully I'm saying this right. I've said so many things wrong today. I'll just add this to the list. Iliad El Hout? Or it could be Iyad. Yeah, right. Iyad, perhaps. Yeah. As a fellow Lebanese, I have to ask, how does it feel to be quite possibly the only Lebanese person in the Japanese game industry?
You know, when you put it like that.
Is it mostly in your circle of friends, peers, colleagues? Is it mostly Japanese people? Is it a mix of Japanese and American people? Is it a global? What would you say it feels like in terms of who your peers are?
Feels like a bunch of American dudes.
Yeah?
Yeah, they're cool. I like them a lot. I like hanging out with them. But it's like a motley crew of American guys, the occasional European, and of course, now you're in Japan, so Japanese people. But it's mostly male, Japanese, and or American. Yeah,
those are your peers. And you know Lebanese, how many languages do you speak?
Fluently, 3. And then business Japanese. So I can speak, my mother tongues are Arabic and French. Mm-hmm. And my third language is English. And I speak Japanese. So yeah, I had to, because I had basically 1 year, intensive year of learning Japanese, and then my sensei decided I was ready for a master's degree in Japanese. I was like, no. I was like, yeah. And yeah, that's right into the fire.
Wow. So you're a master's in Japanese? You have that too?
Yes. Well, my master's degree was in the Japanese language, but the degree itself is called visual creation, which is like a basic blanket statement over, like, we have no clue what you're doing, but we love it. So here you go.
But you had to formulate that concept, and you had to express your ideas in the Japanese language.
Yep. Good
gravy. Congratulations. Yep. I took a semester of Japanese in college. I can say sumimasen. I can, tokidoki. I went to, I felt like, and this is speaking to something you were talking about earlier, which is the culture shock of being in this place where, how are you going to fit in? Are you going to be able to take in your culture even though you're from a completely foreign place? And, of course, language barrier, too. It's very hard going to Japan and not knowing Japanese. They say, oh, everyone speaks English. No, they do not. I don't know if you've played Antichamber, something you were talking about earlier. Your master's thesis game reminded me a lot of the same themes of Antichamber, which is a game by a guy named Alexander Bruce. He went, I think, to China and didn't know Chinese and was just like, how do you find out how to get an egg? Where's the egg store? Who do you ask for eggs? Why do you figure everything out? He made a game that's all about making you feel that way. It's called Antichamber. It's really neat.
I should check that out. That sounds amazing.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I mean, a tangent, but kind of related. The main character, my Alice, what she has on her head, actually, I have a tattoo of her now. That's how much she means to me. She has a slice of bread on her head. Huh. The reason is that was the first culture shock. When I first got to Japan, I was still in the airport. Like we were like a bunch of people who had gotten the same scholarship. So they put us in a hotel for the night because we got there on a late flight. And I was hungry, so I went down to the convenience store, Combini, and I wanted bread. In Lebanon, bread is like French bread because we used to be a French colony, or flatbread, which is Lebanese bread, pita, like pita, but it's like bigger and it's amazing. I love it so much, I miss it now. Anyway, I went down to the convenience store and I just went, bread. And the guy gives me like this big fluffy, what I thought looked like brioche and not bread. It's like the toast pieces were like this big, no joke, and this thick and super fluffy. And it looked like sugary, like toast, whatever. And like for me, toast was like this big and kind of cracker-like, at least in Lebanon. And I look at him, I'm like, no, bread. And he's like, that's bread. And I'm like, no. This, I could probably put it on my head. Look how, this is as big as my face, man. Bread. And he goes like, this is bread. And I was, and neither, he's speaking to me in Japanese. I'm speaking to him in more and more annoyed iterations of English, and then I realize he's not speaking English. I start like kind of cursing in Arabic to myself, like, oh god, I just want some bread, goddamn. I was really tired. And then it just becomes a really like a contest of like wills, and like I'm just staring at him and going, bread, bread, please. And he's looking at me going, this is bread, go away. And
my goodness, the tension I'm feeling. And did you end up with bread, or did you end up with his bread?
I just took his goddamn bread. It's just, he wasn't.
Sometimes you have to. Yeah, you reach your breaking point, and you're like, yeah, I have to take
like,
the bread I'm given.
Yeah, I'm like, when in Rome, and then the bread was great. It was fluffy and kind of sugary. It was really weird, but I love it now. Like, yeah, but yeah, that and in commemoration of that first shock, which I wrote down as soon as I got back to my room, like a crazed animal. I was just like, I'm so cultured right now. This is like so shocking. And I wrote it down, and I drew my first sketch of Alice, and then she had the bread squarely placed on her head as a symbol status of the eternal foreigner. And that's where the whole thing sprouted out from.
Wow. Awesome. Jeez, I really hope... Do you think this game will happen someday?
I don't think anyone would finance that crap, honestly.
I can't see why. I mean, weirder things have happened. I don't know if you've read the Persepolis comic or seen the movie.
I love it. It's so good.
It is incredible. And, you talk to a Hollywood producer, oh, yeah, we want to make a black and white cartoon about growing up in the Middle East as a woman. There, of course not. But then Sean Penn is like one of the voice actors. And, the passion you have and the conviction and the excitement and the ability to take these risks. And in my experience, there are people who have tons of money who noticed, oh, everything that's really popular is made by one of these crazy artist types. Like George Lucas used to be one. Jim Henson was one. Notch was one with Minecraft. These are the people that are going to make us money. So if we give them a little, we'll end up with 3 times, 10 times, 100 times as much, as long as we rip them off in the long run. But they'll help you make your thing. Exactly. You'll get to make your thing. And you're, at your age, you're in your 20s, I'm guessing.
That's for 27.
Awesome. You're in such a perfect position for this. Yes, I see great things. Great things. They're going to happen. Soda Pop HT asks, I'm a teenage boy from the American South. Hi, teenage boy from the American South.
Hello.
What sources online and off would you recommend I look into for inspiration on games and drawings?
Oh, Jesus.
Oh, so much. It's hard to... But he makes a strong point. To curate these things is an important job at this point, because if you tell someone, oh yeah, go look up the best tutorial on the internet or look up the best art on the internet, they're going to potentially end up spending hours and going through a lot of stuff and getting frustrated and miserable. But we, who know, we can potentially help them. Talking about Gama Sutra, for one, perfect starting point, but one of many, TigSource has a really interesting community going on too. But the question was for you. I'm sorry about that.
No, wait. Yeah, I was going to say Gamma. Just go, and specifically, if you want to learn about design, I would recommend postmortems. Like, after a game comes out, just sit down with the developer and talk about what they wanted to make, what went wrong, the limitations. It really just, it's very humanizing in a way. But as far as resources for art, for game art, I would definitely recommend, 6 years ago I would have said that without batting an eyelash, but then so much stuff happened, conceptart.org. Go look for their tutorials. They're not free, but they're worth it. I learned everything about digital art from that community. And back in 2006, when I was on it, it was the most helpful, the most forward. It was pros, like just really like Massive Black pros, you know, Massive Black, the concept art mega company.
Sure.
They worked like they're like giants like Android Jones, which is like my hero. When I went to Burning Man, I looked for him everywhere and I didn't find him. So, so yeah, it's conceptart.org. Look for the tutorial video. Anything by Jason Chan. He's very eloquent. He's very good. He's worked for Wizards of the Coast. So he works for like Magic the Gathering cards, which I have 3 shoeboxes of here. I'm sorry. And he does amazing art. He's worked for the original World of Warcraft elves when the MMORPG came out. He's like those, you know, splash pages with like the elves. That's him. So look at his stuff. Jason Chan video tutorials. Koro is also very good. But yeah, conceptart.org. Go to their tutorials page. They're a little bit expensive, but I totally recommend them. And Jesus Christ, Potato, you scared the crap out of me. Sorry, that was my cat. Games-wise, go to Gamasutra, read about game design, read about level design, and honestly, Google game design documents if you want to be a game designer, and read those, because just looking at how that stuff behind the scene is made is really helpful, at least for me. So yeah, these are like games and drawings, completely different things, but any books, like I have tons of books here, just like art books. It's a thing now, it's a market. If you find a game whose aesthetic you really like, just get the book. It's, yeah, just get like, I don't know, what do I have over here? There we go.
Oh, nice. Yeah. American
This is
McGee.
great. American McGee is badass. So, and this one has a lot of like little notes, developers notes, sketches, a lot of insights on how development works, on iterations, like design iterations, and how a bunch of people come together. Like, the best thing about video games is that it's a group effort. You don't have to do everything. It's collective crowdsourcing art, which is, in my opinion, the best art. And just, yeah, I think indies used to be very good in that respect. If you go on Twitter, follow some indie creators like Rami Ismail, and just ask them. Or follow me and ask me. Just be like, hey, do you know a good tutorial for this or that? And I'll be like, oh, here you go. There's a link. Like, if you ask a general question, it's really hard to tell you. So I just conceptart.org and Gamasutra, starting points, great starting points. But if you want something more specific, just bug me about it, I guess, and I'll see what I can find in my archives for you.
Kind of you. That is amazing. And
we gotta help each other out.
We do. And this is something that I think a lot of people, especially younger people I know, who are oftentimes coming from teenage culture. I don't know how different teenage culture is now, but when I was a teenager, if you like say the wrong thing to somebody, they were going to potentially make fun of you or use you as a stepping stone to try to up their own social cred. You know, but it was a dog-eat-dog social world. When you reach like your 20s and 30s, oftentimes an awesome thing happens, and you just get in the stage where you want to be productive and you want to help other people because it makes you feel good about yourself. Most video game developers I know are in that stage. So if you reach out to them, they're not going to make fun of you. If you reach out to Rami Ismail, he's not going to make fun of you. If you reach out Jonathan Blow, he might be like busy coding the entire world, but he'll eventually try to get back to you. If you have a favorite game, if you reach out to those developers, the ones I know anyway, and I know a few hundred at this point, they try to get back to people. They really do want to help. They want to be role models, and they do want the world to be filled with people having fun making video games. And that's certainly you. Jeez, you're one of the biggest ones I know at this point. You want everybody to have fun in video game.
We really do. I don't know. I was really surprised by the sun just basically coming out.
God. What a perfect note to end the show on. We're a little over time, but it was time well spent. If you ask me, you can start your day. I have to like eat dinner and maybe play Smash Brothers and write things and be an editor-in-chief and be a good boss and stuff.
Congratulations on that, by the way.
Oh, thanks so much. It's super, super weird, but hopefully I can pull it off. People can follow you on Twitter. You're at Petite.
This is embarrassing. Petite Mistress. Don't.
I'm Tron Nuts, which is a derivative of the film Tron. and the actor Don Knotts. So I have
Oh,
absolutely.
really? I had no idea. I was wondering where that came from.
Yeah, most people wouldn't know that. So Petite Mistress is interesting and cool compared to like a weird.
It's my MIRC name from when I was 13 years old.
Really?
Yes, I was. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's French. It was supposed to be a play on like little teacher because I was a freaking bookworm nerd. And I like in French, maîtresse means school teacher. So I was like, I can school you, and then I didn't realize what that freaking meant. And I had the most horrible conversations on IRC at 13. I would just have no idea where people were just coming up to me and telling me about their toes, and I'm like, I don't. But it stuck, unfortunately.
Man,
Here
we
I
have so
am.
much in common. My name is Jonathan Holmes. If you're feeling like making me feel bad, you can Google the other guy. His name is John Holmes.
Oh.
My mom didn't know. She didn't watch giant penis pornography. She was just a regular lady, just having a kid. She thought Jonathan's a nice name. I've been addressed as the giant penis man ever since I was a kid. So I know your pain. I know your Petite Mistress pain. Of course, Comcept and Mighty Number 9. Are they still taking, if I remember correctly, Mighty Number 9 reopened for Slacker backers. Potentially they're going to be a new character in the game, a rival for Beck if you back now. There's still a lot to be done. Where can they? Yeah,
I
you
really
look
saw her in
totally
the
awesome.
game. Oh, it's a girl.
Oh, it's a girl.
Yeah.
I had no idea. Awesome.
What?
So
I mean, look at the cover. The tits are there. Come on.
well, Zero had tits, so that was just a fake tits situation.
No, these are real. Well, not real.
They were, tit illusions, but these are real tits. Very good. Where can they find that stuff about what Comcept is up to?
Just go to mightynumber9.com.
Mm.
And if you want to support us, there's a support button, so you can know that. And if you want to read about what's happening, just go to the news tab. And it's as easy as this. And if you contribute and you pre-order the game now, there's like special tiers where you're contributing to the campaign. Well, not really a campaign, just like an effort or whatever. Instead of taking the profits for us, we'll take whatever profits come from pre-order, re-inject into the game, and make more content if we hit, like, I don't know, a certain amount of money, which is the extra character we're talking about now.
Sure. Very good. Awesome. And one last shout out to Target Acquired. If you go to touch10.com, I hope I'm remembering that right. Yes, //subholmes. It is Touch10, right? Yes. Phew. Touch10.com /subholmes. You can back their thing and get the CD for half off instead of, and it's a special pop-up cover CD. I forgot to say that. You open it up and like,
wow.
pops up with you. Yeah, they're all going to be signed, or a lot of them are going to be signed. The ones we're doing this contest are definitely signed. If you want to enter that contest, we're giving away 4 CDs. Email me, jonathan@destructoid.com, and give us a nice compliment for a human being whose name I desperately want to say right, but I'm afraid I'm going to mess it up. Thank you for saying it for me. And thank you for watching, everyone. Okay, take care. Bye-bye. Bye. Bye-bye.